Hello, and welcome to a haven, a place out of time. Leave the world outside, with its noises, its lights, its rush. It cannot reach us here. Take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs, and as you let it out, release the tensions of your day. Just let go. Tonight, we will not run. We will walk along forgotten trails of a distant time, the Middle Ages. Forget the battles, the kings and queens, the imposing castles. Today, our journey is different. It is a journey through the senses, through feelings, through the whispered secrets of a people who lived at a pace dictated by the sun and the earth. Let's explore how they found relief, how they escaped the harshness of life, and how they sometimes sought glimpses of other worlds, using what nature itself offered them. So, snuggle in, close your eyes if you like, and allow my voice to be just a guide in your peaceful descent into history and into sleep. Imagine waking up, not to an alarm, but to the first pale light of day painting the sky. For the vast majority of people in medieval Europe, life was a slow dance with the seasons. There were no clocks on the walls. Time was measured by the sun, by the moon, by hunger and fatigue. The day began with my body still aching from yesterday's work, my feet on the cold dirt floor, the smell of smoke from the fireplace that never completely went away. The work was physical, constant, plowing the land with a heavy wooden plow, sowing the grain by hand, harvesting under the hot sun. Every piece of bread was earned with sweat and effort. Think of the repetition, the almost meditative rhythm of this effort, the sound of the scythe cutting the wheat, the weight of the bucket of water brought from the well, day after day, year after year. It was a life of extremes, the heat of summer, the bitter cold of winter, the joy of a bountiful harvest, and the deep fear of one that failed. And when night fell, the darkness was total, a darkness we barely know today. The world shrank, reduced to the small circle of light from a tallow candle or the orange glow of the fireplace. It was in this silence, in this darkness, that the body and mind finally found rest. Sleep was not a luxury. It was a vital necessity, a deep dive to repair an exhausted body. But the mind, the human mind, always seeks something more. Even in fatigue, it seeks relief, it seeks color, it seeks meaning, and it was in nature that they found their answers. The forest, the fields, the monastery gardens were open-air pharmacies, a treasure trove of cures and mysteries. Each plant had its story, its purpose. Chamomile, to calm the spirit and induce peaceful sleep. Valerian, whose roots were used to alleviate anxiety and sleepless nights. Women, especially, guarded this knowledge, passed down from mother to daughter in whispered secrets. They knew which leaf to use to close a cut, which flower to soothe a headache, which root to calm an upset stomach. But among the beneficial plants, there were others, plants with a more ambiguous power, plants that could not only heal the body, but transport the mind. Imagine the poppy, with its vibrant red petals. From it, opium was extracted, a powerful painkiller, capable of sending a person into a state of torpor, of waking dream, relieving pain that nothing else could touch. Or henbane, a plant common throughout Europe. Used in small doses, it was a sedative, but in larger doses, it could blur the line between reality and imagination, causing hallucinations and a heavy sleep full of strange dreams. And the mandrake, with its root that resembled a human body, shrouded in legend and danger. Its cry when plucked was believed to be fatal. It was a plant of power, used in love potions and in rituals that sought visions, or a sleep so deep it bordered on death. These were not substances to be used lightly. The knowledge was imprecise, dangerous. The difference between a medicine, a poison, and a passage to another state of consciousness was a very, very fine line. It was a knowledge that walked hand in hand with magic, with superstition, with fear, and with a deep reverence for the hidden power of the earth. Beneath the leaves, on the damp, dark forest floor, grew another form of magic. They weren't plants, they weren't animals. They were fungi, the mysterious kingdom of mushrooms. And among them, one was the king of fables, the Amanita muscaria, with his bright red hat, speckled with snow-white spots, so beautiful and so deceptive. To medieval people, these were not just mushrooms. They were signs. They were the bread of the gnomes, the chairs of the fairies. Where they grew in a circle, it was said to be a portal, a fairy ring, a place where our world and the other world touched at night. Dancing within a fairy ring could lead one to celebrate for a night, only to discover that 100 years had passed in the world of men. These stories, perhaps, were a way of explaining the strange effects this mushroom could have on the mind. Those who consumed it, perhaps by accident or perhaps through secret knowledge, described extraordinary experiences. A feeling of euphoria, of strength. The body felt light, or heavy as a stone. The world around changed size. The trees could seem gigantic, and the person felt small like a child, or the opposite, feeling like a giant walking on a miniature world. The colors became more vivid, the sounds deeper, and then came sleep, a deep sleep, a trance, filled with vivid, prophetic, or terrifying visions, a complete immersion in the world of dreams. Other mushrooms, smaller, more inconspicuous, which we now know as psilocybin mushrooms, also grew in the pastures and forests of Europe. They did not have the flashy appearance of the Amanita, but their power was perhaps even more profound, opening the doors of perception and introspection. We do not know for sure how widespread this knowledge was. It was probably a closely guarded secret, part of folklore, the knowledge of healers and hermits, an echo of much older pagan traditions. It was the raw magic of the earth, unpredictable, powerful, and dangerous. But not every alteration of the mind came from secrets gleaned from the dark forest. There was a form of escapism, much more common, much more noisy, and socially accepted, a liquid escape that brought communities together. Beer, or ale as it was called, was the liquid bread of the Middle Ages. At a time when water from rivers and wells could be dangerous, beer, boiled in the process, was the safest drink. It was thick, nourishing, cloudy. It was consumed by everyone. Men, women, even children drank a weaker version. It was a source of calories, of strength for hard work. And of course, she relaxed. After a whole day bent over in the fields, a mug of strong beer warmed the body and loosened the tongue. Then there was wine, the drink of the nobility and of the church. Associated with the blood of Christ, wine was sacred, but also a symbol of status and power. Having a cellar full of good wine was a sign of great wealth. In the monasteries, the monks became masters in their production, cultivating the finest grapes, and perfecting the process with patience and dedication. And there was an even older drink that carried the flavor of myth and legend: mead. made of fermented honey, water and yeast. It was the drink of the Vikings, of the Celts, sweet, golden, and potent. Drinking mead was like drinking the very essence of summer, the golden work of thousands of bees. Inside the tavern, around the fire, these drinks brought people together. Stories were told, songs were sung, friendships were forged. The weight of life outside, the cold, the hunger, all of it seemed to ease for a few hours. It was a different magic from the mushrooms, a communal magic, noisy, earthy, a reliable, familiar relief to warm your soul before you face the dark night. Far from the light and noise of the taverns, in lonely cabins on the edge of the forest, magic happened in a much more personal way. Here, people didn't drink to socialize, but to transform. The knowledge of plants was power, and some people, most often women, were the guardians of that power. They were the healers, the midwives, the wise women. They understood the secrets the earth whispered. They created not only teas and poultices, but also ointments, thick salves made from animal fat and a potent mixture of herbs. And this is where history meets legend. We are talking about the famous flying ointment. The stories told of witches who would smear this ointment on their bodies and broomsticks and fly out into the dark night to meet in secret rituals. Flying sounds like fantasy, doesn't it? But maybe the feeling was real for them. These ointments contained powerful plants such as belladonna, henbane, aconite, substances that, absorbed through the skin, could induce very strong hallucinations. The sensation of floating, of the body being lifted off the ground, the view of the world from above, the feeling of traveling through the night sky, all of this could be an intense journey that happened entirely within the mind. And then there were the love potions, famous in tales and songs. Were they magical? Probably not in the way we imagine. A mixture of herbs with relaxing or stimulating properties, a little wine to lower inhibitions, and the most powerful ingredient of all, suggestion. The belief that the potion would work was often enough for it to, in fact, work. In this world, the line between medicine, prayer, and spell was almost invisible. A concoction was prepared under the light of the full moon not only out of superstition, but because it was believed that the moon's energy enhanced the properties of the herbs. Every act had a meaning, every word a power, but every light casts a shadow, and every escape has its price. The knowledge of herbs was a double-edged sword, the same plant that could bring peaceful sleep in a slightly larger dose could bring eternal sleep. Accidental poisonings were a tragic reality. Without modern science, dosage was a dangerous art, based on trial and error, an error that could cost a life. And the liquid escape from the taverns had its chains, too. The same alcohol that warmed the body and brought friends together could lead to dependence, to the loss of what little one had, to the violence that was born of drinking and despair. Drunkenness was seen as a sin, the sin of gluttony, and he who lost himself in drink was seen as weak, a soul lost both to this world and the next. And perhaps the darkest shadow of all was fear. Fear of the unknown. In times of plague, famine, and uncertainty, people looked for someone to blame, and it was easy to point the finger at the woman who lived alone, who knew the secrets of the forest, who knew how to make a bedtime tea. Knowledge that was once seen as wisdom could overnight be called witchcraft. The same potion that cured could be presented at a trial as proof of a pact with evil. The search for relief, for transcendence, could end in a bonfire, not from the poison of the plant, but from the poison of fear in the minds of men. The same nature that offered the escape became the evidence of the crime. We leave behind the darkest shadows, and now walk into the soft light of our night's end. The medieval world, as we have seen, was complex, and their way of understanding the body and mind was very particular. They did not think in terms of chemistry, but in terms of balance. It was believed that every human being was governed by 4 fluids, 4 humors: blood, which was hot and moist; phlegm, cold and moist; yellow bile, hot and dry; and black bile, cold and dry. Your personality, your health, your state of mind, everything depended on the balance of these humors. If you were very melancholy, sad, it was an excess of black bile, the mood of the earth. The treatment? Warm, moist things, a glass of wine, listening to happy music, eating comfort food. If you were lethargic, listless, an excess of phlegm, you would need something warm and dry to perk you up. Every food, every drink, every activity had the power to alter this delicate internal balance. It was a poetic way of seeing oneself as a small universe in constant adjustment, seeking harmony. Even dreams were influenced by what one ate. It was believed that broad beans could cause nightmares, while a simple lettuce was seen as an invitation to a peaceful, dreamless sleep. They saw the world as a great book of symbols, the flight of a bird, the shape of a cloud. Everything contained a message. Animals were bearers of secrets. The cat, with its silence and nocturnal eyes, was a being that walked between worlds. The owl, a guardian of hidden wisdom. It was a way of living where everything was connected, the body, the mind, the food, the stars, in one great, silent symphony. And so, our journey through the past comes to an end. We walked through sunny fields and through dark forests. We saw the search for relief, for color, for a moment of peace in a world of hardship. We realized that the human desire to dream, to relax, to escape, has not changed. It is the same today as it was 1,000 years ago. Now, there are no more stories to tell, only silence and your rest. Let the echo of these stories dissolve, like the morning mist. Feel the weight of your body, comfortable, safe. Surrender to that feeling of being supported, sustained. Any thought that arises, just observe it and let it pass. Like a cloud in the night sky, it is not important right now. The important thing is your rest, your peace. Just as the medieval peasant surrendered to sleep after a long day of work, so can you now. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to solve. Just breathe and rest. Take another deep breath, and as you let it out, let it all out. Good rest. Sweet dreams. Sleep well.